Hey, this is Mike Sullivan, your Assemblies of God, Arkansas District Men's Training Coordinator, with you again today to help you in your journey towards being a men's leader, having a vibrant men's ministry in your church. And I appreciate you watching these videos. These are things that we do through the district office to try to help you create good men's ministry in your local church. If less than 10% of the American churches today have a vibrant men's ministry, that means something's wrong. It means that there needs to be some help, and I pray that these videos are a help to you. Today's discussion I want to help you with is in developing good, solid male role models in your church. That nothing makes good men like watching another good man. You look back in history and see in how American men were defined by role models from war or from the movies, from the silver screen. You see guys, Gary Cooper, John Wayne, Robert Mitchum, Clint Eastwood. You know, he had different men whose lives other men looked at and said, I want to be like that man. The problem is if you got a bad role model, you're going to wind up with a bad product. You're going to take on that person's good and bad traits. And what you want is good role models, men who love God, men who are not ashamed of their masculinity, men who are not afraid of what others think, men who are strong in character, strong in discipline, strong in discipleship, men who have a heart after God. Paul deals with this issue when he tells the church, he said, imitate me as I imitate Christ. Christ was his role model, and if you want to know what Christ is like, if you want to know what it is to live godly, then imitate Paul's life. What we need in our church is not acting like grandma. We need for our men's ministry, we need fathers and grandfathers, men, just men in the church who will live a good, godly life. There's a book that I've mentioned before that I really highly recommend that you get by Brady Boyd, pastor of New Life Church in Colorado Springs, called Sons and Daughters, Spiritual Orphans Finding Our Way Home. And I highly recommend that you get a copy of this book. I wanted to read something to you. Just out of the introduction, I've been reading this book. I've known Brady for a few years, and just the introduction was overwhelming. I read this dealing with the same issue in our men's ministry on a Sunday morning breakfast, talking about how we as men, one of the greatest ministries we can have is being a good male role model. Number one, to the children in my own home, but secondly, to the people that are here in my local church. It says in the introduction, it says, in the 1930s, a 14-year-old girl came home one afternoon and broke the news to her father, a stern, dogmatic, religiously church-going man, that she was pregnant. As the story goes, his reaction was no surprise to her. She had seen him this angry before, but being disowned at 14, where was she supposed to go? What was she supposed to do? Believing no other option was available to her, she traveled from her home in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, to the city of New Orleans, 80 miles south. Maybe I can find work there, she figured. Surely something would pan out. The streets of New Orleans is no place for a young teen. Alone, scared, desperate for a way out of her pain, she birthed her baby and jumped at the very first job she could find. Prostitution is not a glamorous path, but it proved lucrative for the now 15-year-old mom. Not only did she become good at the job, she became a smart, savvy businesswoman too. Years later, she would own her own brothels and die with more money than she could ever have spent had she lived another lifetime more. And on her deathbed, this frail, failing woman plotted the tombstone she desired to have on her grave. And on it was etched a replica of the large front porch of her childhood home, with a young teenage girl peeking through the front window. And below the image were 6 words that summed up her wayward life. I just want to come home. I just want to come home. And today she is buried in a small country cemetery in a southern Louisiana town. She lived and died never knowing what it was like to feel welcome to come home. As role models, as you're developing men, you can show this to the men in your church. By becoming a role model, what we're doing is saying to a generation that may not have a father, or may not have a good father, or may not have any good male person speaking into their life, what we are doing as men is simply saying, come home. It's safe to be around me. It's safe to open your heart to me. It's safe to come home here. That I am a safe man to help you in your journey. I just want the very best for you. There's a lot of men who won't help others unless there's something in it for themselves. And I'll tell you, that's not who a role model is. And by developing men in your church, you don't have to have men of great renown, just men of good character. Men who are patient. Taking men and pulling them aside and helping them to understand that the greatest ministry they could ever have is not going to be in a pulpit back there. It's going to be sitting at a booth at McDonald's, sharing a sweet tea, and just speaking into this person's life. It's going to be holding a fishing pole on a bank with a young man who's never had a dad to take him fishing before. And because in his mind, you've made such a place for him to come and be with you, like you're somebody important, that you're willing to take out your time just to be with him and show him how to fish, and being patient. And when he snags a stump, you don't get mad because he lost the lure. Hey, it's okay. We're out here to have fun. That's a thing that person, that young man, will never forget. And he may have a dad, but now you become an important figure in his life. You become a role model. And that's the kind of stuff that shapes boys to become men. That's the stuff that shapes young men to become good men. That's the stuff that even as a 43-year-old pastor, to have a man that would speak into my life, that's the stuff that can make a good man into a great man. So I want to encourage you, one of the best ministries you could have in your men's ministry, one of the best things that you can accomplish is take your men and allow them to play a part in the lives of the teenagers and the children of your church. Help cultivate that atmosphere in your local church where these men feel good about taking kids fishing, showing them how to just love and enjoy life, and to know that there's somebody there for them. Brady Boyd in this book, he talks about how they had college students, a bunch of college students there from Colorado Springs, there in their auditorium, and how they it may have been a staff member who anyway took his children. And in front of all these college students, he took one child, his own children, and he said, I love you. You're special to me. I adore you. You're so smart. You're so wonderful. There's nothing you can't do in this life, and I will support you. I'm here for you. And he goes to the next child of his, and he says the same things. I love you. I adore you. You're my special child. You're so smart. You're so good. There's nothing you can't accomplish. You're going to be a great man someday. And he went to each one of his children. And while all of these college kids are watching this, he's standing there or kneeling there on the platform affirming his children. And then he turns and he looks and he motions and he has men from the church come and stand across the front. It's a bigger church. They had a bunch of guys. You don't have to have a big church. It's the same thing you do in your local church. He had men come, and they stood across the front. And began to tell him, say, I don't know if you have a dad or a grandfather, or if you did, if they ever spent any time with you or said these things, but you need to hear these things from a man who cares about you. And these men that are here before you this morning, these men are ready to affirm you and to tell you what a special young man or young woman you are. If you need a man to speak into your life, come. Just come up to them and let them love you and do that. And said one by one, people started getting up and come to these people, and pretty soon the whole front was mobbed with college students who were so hungry to be loved and so hungry to be told that they're appreciated and that they're special and they can accomplish anything. And he said what you saw was there was lines in front of some of these men, and they're grandfathers, they're retired men, or some of them are dads, but they just took a moment to love somebody that wasn't their own kid and just let them be their own kid for a moment. And these kids would come up and tears flowing and just lots of hugging and weeping. And these young men and young women would actually leave that line after being appreciated and go get in another line and wait until they could be loved on one more time. And then go and get in another line and do it again and again and again. That's the value of a male role model in your church. That's the best ministry you could ever have in your local congregation. Take a moment. Go through this book. Take an opportunity to do what I've just shared with you. Do something to cultivate in your own church the opportunity for men to affirm other men and youth, to do what God made us to be great dads to those who need one. God bless you. I pray that this helps you. I pray that anything we could do to help you in your local ministry, let us do that, because we want to be here for you. If you need to get a hold of me, you can email me at mike@Poen, Poyen, PoenAssemblyofGod.org, or you can get a hold of me or Terry Newman, our district men's director at our district office in Little Rock. God bless you. Y'all have a great week doing men's ministry.